everybody, I think from my opinion, Jay, this is just mine. I think we need to go back and make a nuclear family the social norm. We have to invest.
100%.
We have to go back and reinvest in our children, no matter how old they are or how young they are. We have to reinvest into them, because in the reality of things, like you do in the money market, you invest in things and hoping that it's going to multiply and be fruitful to you. What's more important, money or those children to be successful and be fruitful for their own selves, right? And their own family. So I think that as parents, our goal now is to ensure that our children are successful in their lives, and that as parents now do whatever we can to ensure that success, whether it's ours as a mom and dad sacrifice for their success, then that's what it is. But they have to see that. They have to feel that support. And I think we need to get back to the social norms of having two parents in a household.
Hey, welcome back. You are joining Joe and Jay Outspoken. Make sure you check out all of our old episodes and such, and check us out online at all of our social media channels at linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. Today's episode is a good one. This one's about the disappearing family.
Why did you sound so sexy when you started this episode? You came in here like you were like so romantic. Like I was looking around. I'm like, is there candles? I don't know, bro. You came in pretty, pretty steaming. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on there, but
I came in like a candle flame.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
All right. This is a deep subject. There's a lot going on with, the nuclear family is kind of disappearing as things go on. And it's really something that's going on in the United States, not the rest of the world. So it's very curious, and, why is it happening?
Well, according to the Pew Research Center, we're all familiar with Pew Research Center, right? The American nuclear family is officially dead. It is no longer in existence. We've come a long way, right? If your children are growing up in a nuclear family unit, right? And traditional visions of family life, incredibly uncommon now. So, the rise of single parent, blended, adoptive, same-sex families has contributed to this transformation into the wind. As they say, it has gone. Now, you're going to have people on both sides of the aisle that, when I say aisle, I don't mean in a political sense, but just in both sides of pro-nuclear family, anti-nuclear family, right?
Right.
So you're going to have them on both ends of the aisle. I think what the biggest thing is when people look or think of the nuclear family, right? They think of the dad, at the breakfast table with a newspaper and a cigarette, and mom in her little
right,
in her little outfit making breakfast, and
the Leave It to Beaver family.
Yes, exactly. And that's what they're looking at when us old folk be talking about the nuclear family, right? But to me, that's not what a nuclear family is, right? There's a lot of benefits to being a nuclear family, and what that really means, I guess, and what we're going to be discussing is the family unit, meaning by the father, the mother, the kids cohabitating, living together, raising their kids together. Look, I can sit here and argue my point all day long, but this has been stuff that's been talked about through psychology, through marriage counselors, through everywhere you look at it. And no matter how you see it, there are much more benefits in having a whole unit family. Let's call it a whole unit instead of nuclear. Let's call it a whole unit family. And as modern as psychology has gotten today, with all the beliefs and gender dysphoria and whatnot, they still believe that, there's elements to having a wholesome whole family. And those elements and those advantages of having that family is very important, right? So what's some of the things that we look at? Like team sports, right? You got a team that trains together, works together as a unit. They build what? They build strength, right? And stability, right? That unit becomes strong. It becomes unmatched. So that's one common thing. I mean, that's one, I guess, advantage of having a nuclear family is the strength and stability of that family. Because like most governments, you have to have a system of balances, right? You have the executive branch, right? You have the judicial branch, right? You have to balance that. The executive branch is obviously going to be both parents, right? Because they both make decisions in a family unit. But the judicial branch, you're going to have someone that's going to be kind of the hard hand
Right.
to bring that justice in, and they're going to have, and that's where they kind of have to split, right? Because one's going to be the person that's going to that put the authority down, the other one's going to one that's going to have to enforce it. However, financial stability for more opportunity is another key advantage in having a nuclear family, in my belief. I mean, feel free to jump in and say what you think, but I think like consistency and behavioral successes in the family unit, right? Because as a family unit, as a mom and a dad, you both grew up in maybe two different households, but whatever worked for you guys, bringing those things together and bringing it to your children clearly is going to make an impact, and it's going to help, right? Because again, your strength and stability as one unit creates that environment, and again creates that consistency, that behavioral success, where you don't have these kids that are pop off, like you have a single family, and I hate to say it mostly happens with single mothers, because
Right.
they by far are the ones that are left with the responsibilities, because the dad kind of leaves, not all the time, but for the majority of the time, right? So the mom is not that heavy-handed person. She can't play both roles. It's impossible for anyone to do
Right.
so there's not that consistency, there's not that behavioral success, because what happens when someone gets stressed out, especially a mom or a female? You got work, you got kids, I got to get them to ballet, or I got to get them to the football practice. They stress out, they break down, they start crying. They don't see that success, that strength flows behind a dad, let's say, who's more authoritative, who's gonna like, hey, listen to your mom, what you just say, you know what I mean? And has that commanding voice. Not to say that moms are weak, but it's just a disadvantage. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And of course, we also, as a family unit, you encourage education to where there's a single household, a single parent. As they get older, they're looking to help mom, they're looking to help the little brothers. So education doesn't become a priority. Now, when you have a two dual income house with both parents, you got that, again, stability, consistency. Now you're pushing for education because, hey, you know what, kids, we got this. You guys focus on this. And of course, there's the health benefits of being a nuclear family, right?
Right.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, all these things are beneficial to, I mean, unless it's a toxic environment, but they're all beneficial socially. Why? Because what happens when you have a nuclear family? That family then encompasses other nuclear families, like your own family, right? You go with cousins, you go with your wife's sisters or brothers, and you'll hang out, cousins, everybody commingles and coexists, right? So you have this huge, you go from this little unit to a big unit, like the old days, you used to see. Common was, you walk into someone's house, grandparents' house, and you see the wall filled with pictures of kids and grandkids, and
Right.
you know
Yeah.
all together, individuals,
Yeah.
graduations, whatever. Those days
Everybody
are
had that grandma with all those pictures,
correct.
Yeah.
But all that's gone, all that's leaving,
Right.
all that's
Now,
going
all of
away.
us back then did, maybe not now so much. So.
Correct. You don't see that, and we can attribute that to a little bit of the digital era, with everything's on your phone now, right? It means a lot to you go into grandma's house, and you could sit there. I used to remember going to my grandma's house. Even in my house growing up, I could see there and see the story of my family. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, when I grew up, just the story. My grandma with my uncles and my mom, and I could see their stories, where they came from, how life was. You don't see that anymore.
No.
It's gone. And I think that is sad. I think that's very sad, and I think it's impactful, and I think it's changing the dynamics of people.
Yeah.
And you go out to the real world, and it's just it's lost its mind. It's like they're crazy, and I think that's very sad to see. So I don't know. What's your take on this, Jay?
Well, so I was reading a few different things. So one, according to data from a 2022 American First Policy Institute, there are approximately 18.3 million children across America who live without a father in the home, comprising about 1 in 4 children. So it's crazy when you start thinking about that. 1 in 4 kids, that's a lot, and some people will say, well, what difference does that make? Well, what if all of a sudden a statistic came out that said 1 in 4 children will have cancer, or 1 in 4 children will be born without a limb? There would be huge outrage and concern over that. Well, the thing is this should be outrage, because there's so many things that are going on that cause issue. So we mentioned this in the beginning of the episode. The United States is very unique in this whole thing, right? So the U.S. has the highest rate globally of children living in single parent households. As of 2019, this is staggering, man. 23% of children lived with one parent and no other adults, which was over 3 times the global average. The global average being 7%, according to who? Pew Research. In China and India, this number stands at 3 and 4% respectively. So the statistics are even more staggering for Black children, with nearly 50% living with a single mother. There's a lot of blame on divorce, and divorce causes some single parent households, but approximately 40% of children are born to unwed mothers for women under the age of 30. So, you know, we've talked about this in multiple episodes about kids being born to single moms. And sometimes those things are unavoidable, right? Like you said, abusive relationships, you know, maybe the father passes or something like that, job, work, you know, car accident, all these kind of different things. Demographics that bear 2/3 of children in general, the out of wedlock rate increases to 53%. Well, many unmarried women cohabitate with their partner at the time of giving birth, and these relationships fail at twice the rate of marriages. So think about that. Just getting married has an impact on the relationship. Surprise, surprise, right?
Yeah.
Because at least for men,
surprise.
yeah, at least for men, what it does is it gives them an incentive to stay in the relationship, right? Because we've talked about this before too, that, you know, now, and there's a lot of YouTube channels that are talking about this, that there's no incentive for men to get married, right? Because once they do, they have the opportunity to lose half of what they have. Correct.
Yeah.
And the woman can take like, we've worked all these years, we get married, and now all of a sudden can take half of what we've worked our entire life to achieve to, which is nothing, but you know, I digress. You can have my whole trailer if you want it.
You're not taking the cinder blocks.
You're not taking the cinder blocks or the Atari 2600. Okay. That's all I'm saying. So here's some of the things that, like I was saying earlier, we say 1 in 4 kids are born without or don't have a father in the home, or any other parent or any other figure in the home except for typically their mom. Mental health. This is a big one. The effects of broken families have been staggering. Children from fatherless homes fare far worse in overall well-being and mental and behavioral health. These children are often burdened with lower self-esteem than other children, and they do not understand why their fathers abandon them. And this is the thing, is that this goes on later in life, right? Especially as young men, we can't admit that, right? We can't admit that, oh, dad left and I feel bad about dad leaving. No, you know, what do we say? We put a middle finger in the sky, F that guy, I don't care about him anymore.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I didn't know him anyways. And we put up this barrier, this shield that protects ourselves, right? Against, right. And we don't talk about it. We're not going to talk about it if dad's gone. So that's a big one. Here's a huge one.
We have to block it out.
Right. So here's a huge one. And this is a this is a tough topic. It's abortion rates. Fatherlessness also has a link to abortion rates, perhaps counterintuitively. Data shows that upon the legalization of abortion, the fatherlessness rate in a country rises dramatically. For example, within years after abortion was legalized in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, the percentage of children living with single mothers doubled. Criminal activity. Here's another one. Criminal activity and fatherlessness are closely related as well. Most adolescents who entered the justice system have suffered from parental abandonment, substance abuse, or dysfunctional households. In a study of 75 juvenile delinquents, 66% experienced fatherlessness. 20% had never lived with their father, and 25% had an alcoholic father. So there's a surprise. Some data suggests that children without fathers in the home are 279% more likely to carry guns, deal drugs, compared to peers living with their fathers. In one study, 70% of youth in state-operated facilities were from single-parent homes. So with just those few things that come up, it's no wonder that, you know, we're seeing such a decline in the mental state of our youngsters, right?
Yeah.
Because who are they being raised by, really? Think about who your kids are being raised. Society, absolutely.
TikTok, Facebook.
Yep, all your social media platforms.
Other broken family kids.
and then bad school system, right? And I'm not saying
Horrible.
I'm not saying teachers are bad, right? There are some bad teachers out there, just like there's bad everybody. There's bad doctors and police officers and whatever,
You didn't say
priests,
firefighters. There's bad firefighters
priests.
too.
Yeah, bad firefighters.
Bad priests.
darn
Yeah,
red line.
yeah, right.
So there's bad people in all those spectrums, right? But the thing is that the teaching system has, and we've talked about this many times, there were so many things that were taught in school that are gone now, absolutely gone. And what did they make that? Because school is not like the entire day got shortened, right? Because they took away these things. They have replaced them with what? They obviously haven't replaced it with more reading or more math or more science, because kids are failing at a greater rate now than ever before, right? In all those subjects.
Because we lost our focus.
Yeah, we really lost our focus. And the thing is that they're pushing these agendas and things in schools, like in college classrooms. It's just unbelievable to me that you're going to pay all this money and you're going to have a professor that stands up there and talks to you about the election and who they think you should vote for. They can have their opinion and say, well, this is who I'm voting for, but you know what? This is a free country. And
I don't think that in school settings, and I'm not talking to college level. College level, you have to open up a little bit more, but high school level down, I think that you have a primary responsibility as a teacher to educate our children with the basics, right? And not impose on them your opinions, because those are impactful. You have to understand your platform as a teacher and how, I used to look up to my teachers, and I took everything they said as gold. That's written in red. You know what I mean? I have to follow that. So you don't have that authority. Gone are the days that the responsibility of us imposing on our children norms, values, behaviors that were necessary to integrate into society was the parent's role. We've given up that because of how society has slowly been drifting away from the nuclear family. And now you have the outside influences. Now you have teachers walking around with LGBT flags or BLM flags or whatever their social justice belief system is. That's what's raising our children. Those are the socialization values that are impacting our children at school.
right.
Those things that were our roles as parents to teach our kids the norms of society, the values of society, the behaviors that should exist or that are necessary to integrate into a normal society have gone away because we lost the norm, the values. We lost all those in society today. With that, we've lost the nuclear family, the wholesome family. All that is out the window. All that's out the door, right? Because now we're focusing so much on these social, environmental injustices that are happening all over the world, right? All of a sudden, since '08, all of a sudden, this has just been happening. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And it's crazy because now they're calling even weather patterns as injustices. Like we have to do
the weather is racist now. So
yeah. So it's incredible that, we've gone away from what the norm is because of what people want to impose on us. And I think that's the problem. I think coming from my perspective, I think my opinion, I think the problem is that we've gone away from social norms, right? We've created something. So I was reading something just to kind of get back on the subject, not that I was away, but Psychology Today, they put out something that says that daughters growing up without a father face specific challenges, right? And fathers influences their daughters' relational lives, creativity, sense of authority, self-confidence, and self-esteem. Her relationship to her is damaged by that absence of the father. So, what happens is you get that father goes away, and then so the daughter now sees that partner of hers as that father figure, right? And kind of clings on to that because the true father figure is absent or is gone or wasn't there. And that comfort is now relied on by him. Right. And that to me is not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing because that comfort should come from a neutral party, one that the daughter should know, no matter her age, that no matter what happens, no matter what she does or what she says, that father, that mother is always there to support her, right? That
100%.
dad's there. You know what? I don't need this guy because I got my dad. Not to say that's an excuse for the daughter to always run back to her father, right? But that father's always like, let me give you my perspective as a man. You know what you're doing, and you shouldn't do that. Maybe that's not the right thing to do, or how to respond. But you always need that. And I'm not just saying and this is again psychology today, but I'm not just saying daughters. Boys have the same impact. As a boy, how you react or interact with your partner is tied to how the father is, or what the father's presence was in that relationship with their kids. Their attribution to society as far as work ethics directly tied to the father, right? And these are things that kids see, and I'm blessed to know that, like, my kids always give me that credit, like, Dad, you know what, we have great work ethics because of you. We always saw that you always hustled, you always worked, you always did, if you had to get 2 jobs, you had 2 jobs, but that was just my work ethic that I got from my father, because he was a go-getter. I got the same thing, so I can't take the credit for that. However, I think that as society continues to roll, we as individuals, as adults, even as parents, have become more selfish, right? We've become the me people now. What do I get out of it? What's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this behavior if I behave how the society norms, or the norms of society? What is it? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is a horrible way to look at life, to just think about me, because in reality, it's not about us as a family, and you see that now. I see that now, that as a parent, your life has no meaning until you have children, right? I mean, you have your wife, and clearly my ex-wife brought a lot of meaning to my life. She was with me through thick and thin. My children, I was there for all their births, and it was such a delight to be in control of these little humans, raising them. And
not little no more.
Clearly not. But we've gone away, even myself, from that feeling, that importance, that this is what life's about, right? Now, no, you know what life's about? Oh, who's gonna get the next best car? Who's gonna get this? Who's more popular online? We've lost track of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's scary, that we've become so selfish that we just procreate to have children, and they just they're just there, they're fine, there's nothing wrong with them, we don't interact with them. It's sad, because like there's times that I'll go out to have dinner, or you and I will go out to have dinner, and you see a family in the next table, because we're always at the bar, and so we're able to see everything. And you see families that come in, and what's the first thing they do to their kids? Here,
give them
keep
a tablet,
it down. Keep
give
it
them a
down.
phone, tablet,
right?
yeah, whatever.
And they're on these kids know how to manipulate these phones better than we do.
Yeah.
And that's sad, bro. That is sad when there's like a 4-year-old kid that gets on there, even a 1-year-old.
I know, and they're swiping away.
And they're swiping away. Yeah. They're going. Yeah. You're like, what is happening, man?
Well,
what? I remember when I had my kids, we would go out to lunch, dinner, whatever. They sat there, and they sat there properly. We talk, we joke around, we make fun, but we didn't have stuff at the table. There was no phones, there was no toys, there was none of that stuff was happening. I mean, we had a bottle for, the baby, because, she was, whatever, if they were at that age. But other than that, no. Maybe she had a toy. She was teething. And those were like essential stuff that you needed.
Binky
like,
type toy.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Security blankets, whatever the case is. Necessity. But people interacted, bro. Like they would sit there, mom and dad would talk. They'd talk to the kids, like, what'd you do today? Who, we knew our kids' friends. We knew their names. We knew what,
absolutely.
Like, it was crazy. My mom knew my friends' names. Your mom knew all the people. They fed them, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? So this we've gone away from that. All that is gone. Like, kids are not respectful. Kids don't open doors anymore. People don't hold doors anymore for females. And all this is attributed to nuclear family. Yeah. All of this, religion out the window, right? People ask, why is this? Why are we dealing with so much stuff in America? You know why? Because our Constitution was based on Christians, on life of Christianity. And what's happened is our world is not living a Christian life anymore, and so it's not compatible anymore, right? So now, as a nuclear family, as like, we failed we fail to introduce any kind of religion to our children, and any kind of basis or foundation. We failed as parents. And now we have this sinful, godless society that attributes again more. So again, if we go back far enough, we could attribute all this to a broken family, right? And that's the problem of today. And I think that we are in a crisis and we need to identify it, which we have, right? But we have to do something about it and not just let it ponder, see what happens and fix itself, because it's not. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It won't fix itself.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to go back on one of the things you had said about fatherless homes and why a young lady needs a dad and why a young man needs a dad. One of the things I really think about is, a daughter needs her father in the home to teach her how they should be treated by a man, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, abusive fathers, all this kind of stuff, that's, the exception, not the rule. A young lady needs her father to teach her how. So when she does get in that relationship with a guy for the first time and he is like disrespectful to her and not like her dad is, right there. Yep, that's big cue to get on
Red
the way
flag
out
right there.
And young men need a man to teach them how to be a young man and not emotional boys, and how to treat women. Because here's the cue. At a certain age, what do young boys do to their mom? Start talking back, being disrespectful, and all that kind of stuff. What's dad do? Dad goes, "What? What did you just say to your mom?" Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to pop you, right? And the father will teach the young man how to be respectful to a woman. And what are these young men growing up? They're growing up with their mom. They're being disrespectful to their mom and everything. And then they grow up to be disrespectful to women, right? So, yeah. What did you say? Pew Research earlier quoted the nuclear family is officially dead.
Dead. Yeah.
So, yeah, we were talking about education a little bit earlier. One of the things I want to bring out was those without a father in the home fare far worse in educational achievement than their two-parent counterparts. Some data shows that if fathers are not engaged, children are twice as likely to drop out of school than children with both parents at home. In a 2008 speech, President Barack Obama stated that the number could even be much higher, declaring that children who grew up without a father are 9 times more likely to drop out of school. Now, so everybody's Lord and Savior, Barack Obama, even admitted to this and said that, right?
Oh, I can't believe you said that.
So, well, it's like, he puts kids in cages. It's not a big deal. The orange guy does. It's a big deal. It's all the hypocriticalness is
so
silly.
when he does that, it's not Barack, it's Hussein.
It's Hussein. Yeah, there you go.
Hussein Obama.
Additional data has shown that 71% of high school dropouts are from fatherless homes. 71%. Now think about that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of kids that have multiple family home that drop out, but 71%, that really skyrockets your chances of being a dropout or having bad grades or whatever. Children with an actively engaged father perform much better in school. Some data shows that they are 33% less likely to repeat a class and 43% more likely to get A's in school. A study by the National Center for Education Statistics concluded that 10% of students living with both their parents have ever repeated a grade, compared to 20% living in stepfather families, 17% in stepmother families, and 18% in mother-only families, 16% in father-only families, and 21% living with neither parent. Likewise, youth who are faced with the opportunity gap but have a mentor are 55% more likely to enroll in college than those without a mentor in their life activities. So
that's crazy.
It's very clear that a two-parent household is so much better for so many things. Educational outcomes, abortion rates, mental health. Because the thing is, so this episode isn't about abortion or anything like that, but why is it that fatherless young ladies that come from fatherless homes are so much more likely to have abortions? Well, once again, we talked about it already. They are looking for love from a young man, right?
All the wrong places.
All the wrong places that they didn't get.
And I think they don't have that fundamental value, and I don't think they have that support system
100%.
to deal with that pregnancy. You know what I mean?
Right,
and
right.
Let me just say something, ladies out there listening to this podcast. We're not minimizing your role. You clearly play a high role, and
Absolutely.
being both parents is not something that should be taken lightly.
No.
And and there's no success rate to it. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
And once,
You do what you can, and what
Yeah.
you get is what you get. And so what all we're saying is that a family does much better when it's together, right? Unfortunately, my kids come from a broken family. When I say broken, my ex-wife and I got divorced, but she's been a rock. She's most people, when they get divorced, there's chaos and all kinds of things going on, and ours wasn't that. I remember, let me tell you a story. I mean, my mom stuck with my dad as much as my dad was an a-hole, mean, and to her. She stuck around until the last one, me, was of age to make his own decisions, to leave the house, to go to college, whatever. She waited that long before she even divorced my dad. And that says a lot about back then how their belief system was in a nuclear family.
right.
They trusted so much in the belief that a two-parent household is that important that I'm going to stick by. I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm going to stick by your father until you guys are old enough to make your own decisions.
Right.
That says something about those women back then and what their belief was in a nuclear family, right? Where today, so I don't even know who the dad is. You know what I mean? Like, girl, what are you talking about? You don't even know who the dad is.
Right.
It's just like everybody wants. Again, I keep going back to that. Everybody's about just selfishness. So they want to be selfish. They're talking about just what's in it for me, my careers, my life, my this, my that. Everything else is irrelevant. And that's not what having a family is. It's important that people understand that the responsibility behind it. You know what I mean? And there's so much to it. And I applaud the women who are doing it on their own and having to play both
Absolutely.
roles. I applaud you for that, but it shouldn't be that way. And I hate to say it, but minorities play a big role in that single parent lifestyle. That's just us. You know what I mean? And then when I say us, I mean minorities. That's just how that doesn't go anymore. We have to realize that we're responsible for these little humans,
Right.
and their survival. And what I mean survival, I don't mean like they're, something bad's going to happen to them, but it will if we don't put some standards and morals in them. And we don't have the ability to do so, like a single mom who's focused on working and just getting her family ahead and stay afloat. You don't have those moral standards that you have to instill in your children, and they don't have the tools to be successful in society, right? So they cave in to society's norm, and that's a horrible thing to look at because you've seen the norm of society today, right? They're dressed up in horse heads and dog faces and leathers with a tail coming out of their rear. So, I mean, that's not something I want my kids to say.
They want to be called
society.
a furry.
Yeah. I don't want my kids growing up and saying that's the society I live in. No, I don't want you to say that's the norm. That is not the norm. And as parents, even as adults, even now as adults, we sit there. My baby mama, I was gonna say baby daddy, that would have made me gay. Anyway, my baby mama, we sit there and we talk. My ex, we sit there and we talk about just even now how much our kids still need us. You know what I mean? And not in a need that like I need you financially, I need you this, but just the fact that they see their parents there together is so impactful.
Right.
Like, they're doing their own thing, but then you catch a glimpse of them kind of looking at their parents. Like,
right, yeah.
They haven't killed themselves. They haven't killed each other. And I think it gives them that ability to say, I got my support here still.
Yeah.
Like they're still here. Like they may have not made it together, but they're still here, and to have that confidence, I think it's I can just imagine how the feeling would be like if my mom was still with us and she'd like be with my dad, not together, but like, hey, you know what? Joe's having these issues or he's having this difficult time in his marriage. Maybe we should go talk to him about it, blah, blah. Can you know how impactful that would have been to me?
Yeah.
That would have been like, oh my God, all right, you guys are right. They were married for a long time. And to me, that would have been like, I would have had to listen,
Yeah.
I think if I had my grandmother or my mom, I think that road of a divorce wouldn't have been an option. You know what I mean? They probably would have kicked me in the rear and got me straightened out. You know, they would have fear tactic me or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because my mom was from Texas, and so was my grandma. They don't play around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't mess around.
Yeah, they don't play around, bro. They had that they had GPS on their chancla. That thing got you every time. You know?
Well,
They had GPS before it existed. Anyway, everybody, I think from my opinion, Jay, this is just mine. I think we need to go back and make a nuclear family the social norm. You know, we have to invest.
100%.
We have to go back and reinvest in our children, no matter how old they are or how young they are. We have to reinvest into them, because in the reality of things, like you do in the money market, you invest in things and hoping that it's going to multiply and be fruitful to you. What's more important, money or those children to be successful and be fruitful for their own selves, right? And their own family. So I think that as parents, our goal now is to ensure that our children are successful in their lives, and that as parents now do whatever we can to ensure that success, whether it's ours as a mom and dad sacrifice for their success, then that's what it is. But they have to see that. They have to feel that support. And I think we need to get back to the social norms of having two parents in a household.
Couldn't
And if
agree
that's
more.
not possible, make it work. I don't mean stay together, force yourself together, but do things together, spend time together. And luckily that's my ex-wife who still involved me in Christmases together and holidays together, you know. And she's something else, man. So I just hope that people out there go back to that. And I think you agree with me on that. I don't know what you think. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, no, you're a mess, bro. You shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, that's one of the things that I think, you know, if we would say, you know, you and your ex-wife, you know, didn't make it, you guys still stayed in contact for the kids. That's part of the deal, is that a lot of these are completely broken homes where the father is 100% absent, right? So I'll leave everybody with this. One of the things that gets brought up every time it happens and it becomes a big, you know, national deal, and I agree, it is a big deal, is school shootings, right? Huge deal. And the people on the left side of the aisle will yell at the people on the right side of the aisle and say, you know, why don't you care about kids and all this? And in a way, I do agree. Okay. Because we're not focusing on where the issues are at. So in a study of 56 school shootings, think about how many you've heard of and how far that would go back. So 56 school shootings, only 10 of the shooters, that's 18%, were raised in a stable home with both biological parents. 82% grew up in either an unstable family environment or grew up without both biological parents together. Okay. We have seen in the most recent ones, it is confused, whether it's socially, sexually, mentally, all of the above. These people have had all kinds of things going on with them. They've posted on social media and done it. And again, there's our issue, is you're getting ready to commit such a horrific act. And the first thing you want is what? Attention, right? In social media. And it's one of the, I mean, why is that? It's daddy issues, right?
Yeah.
And we use that term so just flippantly, right? But it's truly what it is, man, is that these young kids have not been raised well. And again, I agree 100% with Joe. For the single moms out there, you guys are killing it. You're doing a phenomenal job, you know, but understand that kids need a lot. And the problem is, so here's the funny thing. If you go back to the 50s, right? Kids were raised by their mom mainly, right? Because dad went to work. But there was even a cartoon named this. What was it? Wait till your father gets home or something like that.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And the whole thing was the kids are all scared because dad's coming in the driveway. And why was that? Because dad's going to lay the law down. You goofed up while you were at home with mom. Mom's not doing a lot of the disciplining. She's saying, wait till your father gets home because I'm going to tell him what you did and you're going to get your butt beat, right? So moms were raising, but they had that partner that could do the disciplining and all the other things that needed to be done. And again, those two individuals, listen, it takes a man and a woman. I don't care how you are, what end of the debate you are on, how many genders there are and all that. Doesn't matter. It takes a man and a female to make a child. People can argue, well, you can inseminate a woman. Okay, fine. It still takes a man for that artificial insemination in a woman for all of that stuff, right? They can't make fake sperm and fake eggs and make kids. It's just not possible. It is scientifically, biblically, whatever you want to say, it is necessary for a man and a woman to make a child, and it is necessary for a man and a woman to raise a child. That's all there is to it.
Amen.
That's all there is to it. So
say it again.
So yeah, I agree with Joe. Let's bring back the nuclear family.
Let's do it, guys.
Folks, get your kids into church, and even if you're not a believer, let me tell you, church organizations are really good. Now, be mindful of what organization that is as far as the church. I hate using the religion thing because that's always a misnomer for stuff. But anyhow,
just do your research and give them a foundation.
Yeah, give them a good foundation.
One.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you want to send your kid to a good school, right? Not the cheap school that is getting all the bad grades. You want to send them. Well,
that's all our schools right now, though.
Yeah, that's all of our schools. Well, because again, anyway,
that's another topic.
That's a whole nother topic. We'll have a whole one on just school systems. So, all right. Well, as we always like to say, take care of one another.
Do better, be better.
And as always,
God bless America. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
See you next Tuesday.
Bless.